Renaissance is finally back with your boy G, J, and my cousin today. I'm gonna introduce him as Levante because I feel like he gonna get on my nerves. And I'm gonna tell you why he's here as a special guest when I get into the topic. Now, what brings Renaissance out of the dungeon, back from infinite obscurity, is boxing. Y'all know it's boxing, but we was waiting on some other fights to come up, but one just dropped into our laps. Shawn Porter put some order in or some request in with the WBO to make itself the mandatory for Terence Crawford's title. Now, in the past, Terence Crawford has been saying that nobody on the other side of the street, as PBC fighters have been alleged to call it, have wanted to fight him until Shawn Porter requested this order. They had the fight last night, November the 20th, and all three of us watched it in different locations. So we'll get this going by first asking, start with Levante. We'll call him Vante when he's credible. Right now, we're going to call him Vante. What did you see, or how did you see this fight going before it was held last night? And who did you see winning?
I mean, just to be completely transparent, I kind of had two parts. I how each person can win the fight, just naturally. He's not my two favorite boxers, so I couldn't, have a bias in determining who was going to win just off of who I like better. But I knew Shawn Porter was going to come in and make it a dogfight, make it rough. So I knew if he could do that for 12 rounds, he could maybe pull out a decision. Didn't really see him knocking Bud out. And then talking to Josh earlier in the week, we had already talked about him getting knocked down late by Spence. What was that, the 10th or 11th round that he got knocked down? So we knew that, coming in, he was going to touch the canvas later in the rounds and potentially get knocked out by Bud, just because that's what Bud does. So I knew if it went 12, I kind of had him winning by decision, just on more activity. And if it was going to, be a knockdown situation or a knockout situation, we had Bud winning, in that scenario.
So what I got from that is to elevate yourself from casual fan, you went and talked to Josh and he gave you some pointers. So we might look. It looked like you had that conversation based on my notes, and we can elevate you, Devontae, for the rest of the conversation. Jay, you can go.
Well, as the watchers know, and y'all know from knowing me, I'm definitely a Terence Crawford fan, especially being a southpaw myself. So that's the way that I was leaning. I knew that it was going to be a rough task either way. With Shawn being such a come forward, pressure, blood and guts type of guy, without necessarily the pop that usually comes with it. So I knew it was going to be interesting. It was going to be something that we hadn't necessarily seen from Bud. And what we saw, like, as it was, transpiring, I guess, like, I was expecting a little bit more boxing skill to kind of carry Bud rather than him just walking straight towards him and trying to hurt Porter. But I did see it ending in a knockout either way. So it kind of went the way that I thought it was going to go in the long run. But as far as how it actually happened, I was a little bit surprised by that, as far as the timing of it and when he did different things.
It was, well, going into it, I had Bud. Spence had Bud, even though he had a close fight with Shawn Porter. A lot of other fighters went for Bud, but in the preparation or the lead up to the fight, I started pulling more for Porter. I actually was rooting for Porter and had Crawford going into the fight, and I had it the way most people had it. Bud has quicker hands. He has comparable foot speed to Shawn Porter, so I knew he's going to be able to move with Shawn Porter. It was really about whether or not, when he caught Porter coming in, could he hurt him? If he could, I see a stoppage eventually. If he couldn't, I see Porter wearing him down and it becoming a war. And then actually getting into the fight, I'll go back to you, Jay, before going back to Vante. Round one until the stoppage, what were you seeing in the fight? What did you notice? What things surprised you? What was you looking at?
I noticed that both of them were very, very sharp. Shawn was probably the sharpest that I'd ever seen him, to be honest with you. I knew that that wasn't necessarily going to win him the fight, but it was going to, you know, save him from the maximum amount of damage that possibly could be dealt out. The footwork was good. His reaction time, his reaction speed, going in and out, especially, you know, countering Crawford's jab. He did that well, especially for him being at a deficit when it comes to reach. When it comes to Crawford, it was some boxing going on earlier, but as far as him just turning it on as far as like being a dog, especially in the southpaw stance, I just wasn't expecting it that early. I was expecting it to come from boxing. And once he saw a chink, then turned it into that, because that's usually how it happens. He just did it early and was like, you know what? I'm not about to let you do whatever you think you're about to do. I'm coming at you. And it was, in that sense, it was almost like a Spence fight, because he just was like, I don't care what you're doing. This is what I'm doing. Do something about it.
How you got it, Vontae? How you got it? What was you saying?
I actually, you know, I definitely agree. I think Shawn Porter probably looked the best that I've ever seen him in terms of just coming ready to play. I know he's one of those boxers who always comes, you know, at the highest level he can for each fight that he enters into. But I think for last night, I think for Bud, he came correct, you know, contrary to what his dad may have said at the end of the fight. I know we'll get to that, but I feel like he was ready. I feel like he came in.
Shawn Porter was ready?
Who?
You said Shawn Porter was ready? Despite
Yeah, I feel like Shawn Porter was ready for this fight. I feel like he came in and made Bud a little bit more uncomfortable than I'm used to seeing him, I think, early on. And I know at the end of the fight, Bud mentioned that, you know, I had him figured out after the first round just because he knew he had to reach, which I feel like that in itself is a reach, because I feel like he made you do some things that you weren't necessarily used to doing. And I kind of get at, you know, back to Porter in a sense of just his athletic style of fighting. You know, his athletic style of boxing makes it uncomfortable for anybody, because you're going to see some things and he put in some situations that you can't really train for, because there's nobody like him. So I felt like, you know, the advantage in the beginning with the Porter, and then I feel like Bud kind of got out of his usual and just went to like this dogfighting style where he was just, you know, he went to it, you know, and brought it to him, even in close quarters. Like he brought it to him and was catching him with a lot of those left uppercuts, which ultimately is what came back to end the fight with him leaning in, you know, so much. But I don't know. I felt like it was his best, you know, performance to date. I know and I feel like Bud just did what Bud was supposed to do. You know, he's unanimous or pound for pound, arguably pound for pound best fighter. So, you know, he did his job.
What brought me to the thought of asking Vontae to come in, because he mentioned something, I believe, about Porter, that you became a fan of him recently or during this fight?
Yeah, fairly recently, just through conversations, because I realized that, you know, I mean, we all do. We like boxing. We like to see the fights that we want, you know, from a biased standpoint, but we also just like to see good fights. We like to see good competitive boxing matches, so to speak. And I feel like we get a lot of these contract ordeals. I don't know, you know, if you remember the last time I was on, we talked a lot about that, which is how I feel like, you know, it's a lot of these paper deals that get in the way of true fights, you know. And I feel like that's never been a conversation with Shawn Porter. I feel like he gonna figure it out and he gonna get in the ring with you. I mean, you look at his resume, it speaks for itself. You got a lot of these guys that he's already fought that we want to see fight each other, and we haven't. Right. But we've seen Shawn Porter get in the ring with a lot of these guys, and again, you know, he always rises to the occasion. Win, lose, draw, unanimous decision, how split decision, like however it goes, we know that he's gonna take you to the bell. So I feel like, you know, with acknowledging that for him, it made me respect him a little bit more as a fighter, and just as a professional, because I feel like that's what we want. You know, we want to see the fights. I don't want to hear you argue. I want to see the press conferences. I want to see the fights. So I think, like I said, that was just the one thing that, in hindsight, I guess I never really paid attention to. I don't know if it's just his personality or, you know, because he's from Cleveland. But I felt like I had to give him that respect, you know, after the fact.
I'm going to start putting all this data you give me in these different episodes together to see if I can figure out what type of style you like. This is credible information today. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but I'm going to take it today. But something you mentioned about Porter is something we're going to miss. Not just that he taking the fights, is that, you know, he coming for that smoke. He coming to get active. And I swear I can get somebody to watch a fight. I'm like, yo, these Charlos, man, it's going to be a war. oh yeah, you know Canelo, he don't never back up. Oh, Mayweather be throwing punches out, and then it don't pan out, and then they left with a salty taste in their mouth,
It's boring.
which happened. I'm not gonna say it was boring. I'm gonna say I was wrong. That's what I'm gonna say, and it left a bad taste in some people's mouth. And I think that's what happened to the sport in the first place. We got a couple of guys, including Spence, that come in and have a style that suggests my only goal here is to stop you or leave it out of the judge's hands. Whatever I can do to get that job done is what I'm going to do it. We're going to miss that because if the viewers don't know, for those who don't know, Porter announced his retirement after the fight in press conference. We're going to talk about some of the things that may have led up to that. But what I'll say about the fight as I was watching, you mentioned that Crawford said after the fight, after someone asked him, when did you have him figure it out? That's his thing. You know, I guess it's a question you can ask of Mayweather as he breaks people down. But, you know, you can ask somebody that if they stop somebody. But it didn't feel like he broke him down. It felt like he caught him. And to me, I was watching with Jay, but we didn't talk much. I felt that Crawford was losing the fight. I wouldn't say that he didn't catch up, but the momentum or the tactical decisions round by round were better on Porter's side of things. Yeah. I would say I think he got beside himself when he started lunging and the dog and him came out.
Can I tell you, I just want to interrupt real quick because I agree with you 100%. I felt like Bud was losing the fight. No disrespect to him. That's just how, how I had it.
All disrespect. All disrespect and
but I'm gonna tell you where he won the fight. And it came from a single punch. And I forget the round. Forgive me. I didn't come prepared for this. But it was that body shot. I want to say it was like the 8th round. That body shot that landed. I feel like that was respectfully, I feel like that was the end of the fight for Porter. I feel like that body shot crippled him and he didn't acknowledge it, but I feel like that's when it turned.
Josh and Jay were saying something about the body shot and I didn't acknowledge it as much. Jay, did you feel the same thing? Feel the same way?
In the moment, yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, not really. It was more so for me, the uppercut and him getting kind of hit on the temple when they were having those exchanges. And I think that surprised you as well, especially when we started seeing the replays, is Porter was getting caught a lot more than you thought he was in those skirmishes.
I will say, okay, late in those rounds, Porter was getting caught. I felt like he wasn't getting caught. I'll say this. He was getting caught at the clip I would normally see him get caught late in these rounds, and then he moves, and then he takes a break. He moves so sporadically that you have to sit there and wait for him. And while he's doing that, he's actually recovering, and then y'all have to start over. It's just that Bud finally, after waiting most of the fight to launch his offense, he started picking it up. But I saw a few things from Crawford that he wouldn't admit. Why would you admit this if you got other opponents that can pick up on these things? I felt finally the reason that he takes so many breaks in fights and goes, lateral and moves around is because he's getting his wind back. I think he puts a lot of emphasis on his punches. There's a lot more body in it, or it's a lot more force or exertion of force than it appears to be. And it's almost like a sprint, and he has to take a break. And he uses his legs to take a break. And after the fight, someone mentioned, maybe Max Kellerman or some other people mentioned, his legs might not be the same as they used to be. And I think it's because he was forced to fight in those spurts where he would be resting or recovering because Shawn Porter was pressing him. Shawn Porter's pressure didn't seem as mental as it typically is with other fighters. It seemed more physical. Those legs and that lactic acid and all that stuff built up in Crawford, and he started to slow down. They both slowed down. That's what will happen if you put that much pressure on the side of Porter. But it seemed to have that effect on Crawford as well. Late in the fight, who has the reputation for power? Crawford. It showed in their exchanges. Porter's a shorter fighter. Figuring them out, knowing that he had to jump in, we all knew that. Was he going to sit on the outside and never jump in to fight you? He was going to have to come towards you. You've seen that before this fight. And I don't think he figured him out. I think his punches started to land more because Porter, for some reason, felt more desperate. And that kind of leads me to the end of the fight. Vontae says it's a body shot. Jay says it's the uppercuts. I say it's a combination. He did slow down. They both slowed down. Crawford got sharper. Even though I felt like this was going to happen, I felt bad about it when I was watching it. Porter, after the second knockdown, a way he never looked after a knockdown. He got up, he started punching the ground, and I can see the equilibrium leave him a little bit. To me, for a dude that hungry, a dude that really didn't fathom losing, really didn't put that into, his ethos, knew at that point, I might lose. Not oh, he gonna hurt me. Oh, this gonna be bad. Damn, I think I just lost. If I get up against this dude with this problem with my equilibrium and he sees it, he gonna stop me. Fuck. Damn. And then his daddy stopped the fight, and there was some words shared after the fight. Vontae, what do you think about the stoppage? And what do you think about what his father said about the stoppage?
I gotta say this just because this just me.
And Vontae, explain what he said. Explain what he said too, because I didn't share that with the viewers.
First, I feel like I may not want to see a stoppage, but I feel like the corner got to know something that I don't in our situation. So I respect those decisions, even if I don't agree with it. More times than not, I feel like I don't agree with it, but I understand, it's about being able to fight another day. So if the corner feels that way, or the coach or the trainer, whoever it is that, that makes that call, I respect that call. I won't dispute it. I may not agree with it. I don't agree with yesterday's call, but I get it. It is what it is. But as far as what was said after the fact, man, just kind of, I don't know. I was kind of shocked. Like I was just.
Use names. Let them know who you're talking about. Who you were shocked about, man.
Talking about his dad. That's all he get.
Big Kenny Porter.
That's all he get, man. His dad, like that's all he get, like, cause that was wild. He kind of just brought to light to, I guess, for the people, for us to just express himself and say that he feel like he didn't want to see his son, get beat get beat up even more because he felt like he didn't come to that fight prepared. He felt like he didn't train the way that he was supposed to train. He felt like he didn't take the coaching. And he vocalized that for us to hear. And I feel like that's some toxic energy that you don't really release to the public. Cause like you said, I live across the street. I'm gonna see him in the morning for breakfast. Well, that's I'm not opening the door, man. You're not coming in my house. Yeah, you're not coming in my house after that. You can eat on the street. I ain't speaking to you for a couple of days after that, man. That's foul. But yeah, I feel like he should have kept it internal. And if he really felt that way, that's a conversation you have at breakfast.
Jay, before I let you get into this, he pointed out a part of it. These things are it's a perpetual sunning that Kenny Porter is doing to him. I remember an interview earlier in the day or the day before, earlier in the week. He was talking about they were interviewing him saying, we saw the Blood and Tears episodes. We were really interested because of your dynamic. They were being facetious. You were dynamic with your son. What do you think about that portrayal? Well, they didn't catch everything. If they caught everything, they would know it was a lot that he was not doing that led up to it. Okay, so you further digging him a hole that he don't listen to you, and that's why he was sunning him. And my relationship with him great. Because look, think about this. We have these problems and stuff, and I would think, after he moves out my house, because he was with me still, he was 27, used the exact age for some reason. I don't know why. When he was 27, he finally moved out. You know what he did? He called me. He bought a house down the street. I thought about it for a second, and it's probably had his side John that don't resemble none of the morals and values of this Christian life they're talking about. Whatever. He got the Joan next to him. And he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then you know what he did? He bought another house. I'm like, all right, here's the epiphany. Here's the twist of the story. And he told me come outside. And I noticed he moved right across the street. And he paused. I'm like, bro, what's the message? That
Ain't
your
nothing.
son ain't gonna never grow up. He's just this little puppy, this little sick dog that can't never just leave his master. I don't know. And then what Vontae said happened. You gonna bring that back up on national TV pay-per-view, something that's recorded and can be played back through the rest of time. Y'all seen No Mas, you seen everything, and we play it back, and you don't think for a second this is going to tarnish your son's reputation as the junkyard dog, as the dude that never stops, that maybe he's doing this stuff because you got the chain on him and you shaking his hand, sick him, and then as soon as you yank the chain back, he's sit. That's the impression I got from it. Jay, what's up?
Well, it's a couple different angles for me. It's like, one, instead of pointing at Shawn, I would have thought that he would have pointed at himself being the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have thought of. And that's what I would have done, being somebody that instructed somebody. And as the trainer, we all know that what happens in that gym stays in that gym. So he broke two cardinal sins with the boxer trainer relationship that you really can't come back from. And my thing is this: I think the biggest reason why Shawn chose to retire is because he didn't want to necessarily go on with his career for a couple reasons. Number one, firing his father and moving forward and embarrassing the family from his side of things. And number two, what else does he have to accomplish outside of regaining what he just lost? You know what I'm saying? So let's put that to the side.
Yeah.
Then coming back to the perpetual sunning, at first, especially the way that Shawn seemed to be responding to it, like, well, oh, this is just that tough love, blase. It's like, nah, like it never rests. You know what I'm saying? There's never no period where it's just praise. It's always just grind. I'm in your ass. And it's just like that. If he knows the reinforcement concept, then he should know the difference between positive and negative reinforcement and how that works. On another side of it, it's like, I was so surprised that he would say what the game plan was, even on after the fight. Like, why would you say specifically that he wasn't ready, this, that, and the third? And why would you let him go in there if that's the case? If you're gonna throw the towel after the fact, why would you let him go in the ring before the fact? That's not even consistent with me as far as what he believes in and say he stands for.
Me and Vontae have sons. I'll go first. Number one, I'm raising my son. I lived a tougher life than my son is going to live. I foresee at this point. I got him. He's 10. Had been in probably close to 5 fights by then. He's not going to have those. The first time I see my son fight, I'm going to let him fight. I'm going to let him fight, and I will calmly come in and stop it when things get out of control. And if the other guy win, I would like, okay, you did your thing. We're not going to take this any further. I'm gonna pick my son up. I'm gonna pull him to the side and tell him he did a great job. You got past an obstacle that you probably didn't foresee, that you probably were afraid of, and I'm proud of you for stepping up to the plate. I'm not promoting violence, but what I want you to take from this is that you can stay calm and there's nothing to fear from another human being, and we'll take this further. I'm not going to denigrate you at all in front of these other people. I go outside. Oh yeah, he handled this business. That was his first. I'm gonna talk him up. There's certain ways I can give him critiques while leading him in the direction I need to lead him to. Vontae, if this happens, your son, his first fight, or if you're in this situation, how you feel? What would you do?
I mean, it really just depends, because like the biggest thing is I can't take that experience from you. I'm not always gonna be there, so I gotta let you figure it out. To some degree on your own.
Right.
My job now, my son's 4. Happy birthday, last Wednesday. My job now is to kind of prepare you for the situations that you may not know are coming. So let's play fight, let's slap box, let's wrestle a little bit, let's get you prepared for this scenario so that hopefully you can hold your own. I think though, it's weird. It's hard for me to really put it into words because I'm comparing it to the situation. I just know for a fact that that's not what you do.
Right.
I know for a fact that that's not what my father did with me. I know for a fact that that's not even in situations, you know, where I've been in situations and I'm fighting and it may not feel like a win or may not feel like a loss, but it still hurts the same. It's still something that come from that growth, you know, physically, mentally, whatever. So I just know like that's just not how you handle it. You know, some people, you know, can sit and say, "Oh, I never lost a fight," and whatever. You know, you win some, you lose some. That's how the saying goes. But at least, you know what I'm saying, you stepped in the ring and you held your own. That's more so what it's about, you know, never backing down from something, regardless of what the situation is. And I'm gonna preach that because I will address, not in the public eye, but I will address you behind closed doors if I feel like you backed away from something that you should have stepped up to.
Closed doors.
And that's like I said, that's the biggest thing, because that situation, which is so funny because we all can sit here and say, like, man, I feel like that was one of Shawn Porter's best fights, like his best performances, like he came ready to play. And then you know, his dad comes in and says he wasn't prepared. And it's like, what? I don't know what that means. So
I don't even care what you mean by saying that anymore.
Right.
Since you discredited your son's effort in a situation where he was getting hit in his face, if you discrediting that, I'm gonna discredit your mere words that you're sharing when you don't have the level of pressure, you don't share the level of pain that your son feeling right now. You send him to save your face. What I taught him, he didn't do. So don't blame this on me. Let's go into detail of how to blame this on him. Hey, everybody, I'm protecting my son. I'm protecting my son by training him behind closed doors. But then when it comes up, I'm going to give you all more ammunition to criticize my son. When he's spending time with his wife, when he's trying to raise his kids, and his son see on TV that his granddad sit here talking to his daddy like he's a little kid.
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, you know, am I ever going to get to an age where, you know, we can have a one-on-one where I can be respecting this conversation? Because apparently granddad don't do that in front of everybody. Oh, Dad, are you a real man yet? I'm stepping up. Everybody else talk to you crazy. You soft, you corny. Big Dad be doing all types of stuff. Why you move across the street? I don't want to live across the street from him. I want to do all this stuff. You bringing that energy to him. He know how that go. He sunned him, which brings me back to the story of Crawford balling up his fists. He probably tried to sun little Crawford back then. He wouldn't have it. Mm-hmm. Went out into a dark alley, said, let me talk to you. Talk to who? You ain't talking to me like you talk to Shawn. So I'm going to wait for you to say, you got one chance to say the wrong thing, and we getting busy in this dark alley with nobody, because that's going to get to me, and I'm going to have to get off my chest before I can go on with my life. Jay, do you have anything to add? I mean, because you've been around my son since he's been 2 or 3, and both my kids call you uncle at this point. So do you have anything to add as far as little guy in the situation?
That really gives us a for real window into how Kenny thinks, what he really thinks about his son, how respect goes in his mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, and maybe how he was treated as a little boy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was dominated like that, and he thinks that this is a normal way to motivate somebody when obviously it's not. You know, maybe his parent was from the silent generation, as we call it. You know what I mean? So I'm not excusing it by any means, because that was one of the worst embarrassments that you could ever inflict upon your child. Like,
after a great fight, you know, I gotta add that. Like that was a great fight. Like
the
you know what I mean?
The biggest fight of your son's life, and you shitted on him at the point where you knew that his heart was broken. Like
you had to stump on it someone.
Exactly. And that really lets me know the type of man you are. That lets me know the type of father you've been. And that the things that people have been saying for years that we just brushed to the side were probably true.
Yeah.
When Crawford said it, we brushed it to the side. When Spence said it, we brushed it to the side. When Spence trainer said it, we brushed it to the side. When people in Mayweather's camp said it, we brushed it to the side.
When AB said it, when your daddy dressed better than you and he drive better cars, and he live in a bigger house, but you the fighter.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think too that goes into this whole we live this as men when we feel like accolades are it, accolades are everything,
Right.
and it's funny because we talk about a lot of father-son relationships in boxing because it's kind of like that's just a piece of the sport. But the one thing about the Mayweathers that I always appreciated, Floyd Mayweather Sr. was always just very casual in how he roamed the world. Like it's like, man, dude, like you got all the millions, like, but you just casual. You're very comfortable and clean, in your own right. But I would agree. You can't be flashier than the person that's bringing in all the bread. And I definitely sense that, on the Porter side. Granted, they from Cleveland, so we get them a little different, but
Cleveland is a whole different story as we
yeah, but
reside in the lower tip of Ohio, Cincinnati. One thing before I leave this topic and get back into Bud is looking at what he values. Skinny Porter, the father, values. High praise to Spence. High praise to Crawford. High praise to his grandkids. Not a lot of high praise to his son. My son can't do these things.
I think that goes back to what Jay said. I think Jay kind of just mentioned the aspect of this. It's not really good enough for him.
His son ain't the best. These other guys are the best.
And it's not even the fact that he's not the best, because if we count wins and losses, then you can argue that. But I feel like he's definitely one of the best fighters that we ever gonna see. I know somebody last night mentioned, I forget who. I wish I wasn't as tired as I was. But somebody mentioned he's definitely a Hall of Fame boxer. Now I strongly agree.
Absolutely.
I strongly agree.
Definitely Hall of Fame.
I think his resume speaks for itself, but I strongly agree that he is a Hall of Fame boxer. Definitely one of a kind in a sense of his spirit and what he brought to the table at all times. So I can't really look at this as a loss for him. I think that, not that it's not a loss. I look at it as a sense of like, it just really solidified who you were as a boxer. You came to play with one of the baddest in the business right now, and you held your own until till it was over.
He's the opposite of the coach's son in football. Getting preferential treatment. No, I'm gonna treat you the worst. You the worst one on this team. I had plenty of quarterbacks that's way better than you. God, why this dude have to be my son? I couldn't get no taller guy with long arms. I couldn't get all this stuff, but we're going to leave that alone. We're going to get back to Bud. Bud rating in this fight. CB, A+, all that. Jay, first. Rating for Bud's performance.
At first, I was thinking of B, but now I'm going to give it an A-. And the only reason I even thought about the B is because during the fight, you weren't trying to. I think you were just analyzing what was happening, and it was sort of swaying me because I hadn't seen Crawford pull that particular tactic, just pretty much walk you down and wait for you to throw something and just blast you. So I'll give him an A- for him just having the fortitude to do it that way and believe that Porter would slow down faster than he would, and believing in his own cardio, because usually it's no problem doing that with anybody. But Shawn is just not the type of person that you think you just gonna do that to. And for him to just stick to his guns on that and it just happened, I can't lessen his score just because I didn't know it was gonna happen. You know what I mean? So I would give him a strong A-. He's definitely solidified himself. I really don't want to hear anybody talking about him not being top 2 on the pound for pound list. For me, he's number 1. Canelo has earned the argument on being number 1. I'm not even going to say nothing else about it, although I don't like a lot about who Canelo has fought in the past, but I'm not going to denigrate what he's done recently and the obstacle that he just, pretty much got over with Caleb Plant, because that was a formidable opponent, a well-schooled opponent, and that seemed to have been, the type of fighters that gave him the most problems. So, but yeah, definitely top 2, pound for pound for sure. And I don't even know why anyway is still in this conversation. Cherry on top.
Vontae, before I let you go, I do have Canelo as number 1, but I don't want to demote you back to casual fan if you start jumping in here talking about some Canelo stuff. So go.
It's funny.
You was smiling. You was about to
I'm gonna bite my tongue on my Canelo because I like Canelo. Y'all know that, but I'm gonna bite my tongue on that just because I agree. I think he's number one right now. Canelo is pound for pound number one, the number one fighter. But I won't dispute Crawford being that 1 to 2, depending on who they fight. The next fights are important for those two guys for sure, because they can swap very easily. Especially if just hypothetically, we know it's never gonna happen at least till they're 40. But if Bud and Spence fight and Bud wins that fight, then he becomes pound for pound the best
He's
fighter.
number one. He's number one. What was your rating on the fight?
I think the fight we can jump back. I'll come back to that. My rating on the fight, if it was anybody but Spence, I would give this a B+. But because it was, Porter, if it was anybody but Porter, I would give this a B+. Just based on his performance. But with it being Porter, I agree with Jay. Because you really don't know what you don't know. So I'm gonna give it an A- too, because I feel like he was very uncomfortable early on, but he responded. The thing I like about Bud too that I'm starting to really see is like he'll let you go and last and linger around for a couple rounds, maybe get to like the mid fight. But then when he turned that pressure, them shots he lands are like they're critical. And I think that's what really, I can't grade you on not fighting an entire fight because that's not your game plan, that's not your style. But in those later rounds, he breaks you down really, really good. So I agree with Jay. It wasn't a perfect performance, but it was definitely a damn good one. Our consideration going to who his opponent was, and Shawn Porter. So yeah, an A- for me. And as far as pound for pound goes, you can't really take Canelo out of the top right now, just because I feel like he a bad man. I feel like dude just he at a different level.
Stop.
Hold on, wait, let me finish this. I feel like he at a different level in his boxing career. And I think right now we just kind of gonna watch him continue to rise until he does take that L from somebody. We don't know who, but until we see him lose, I got to keep him there, or until I see Bud beat Spence, or vice versa. Because I feel like if Spence beats Bud, then he got to take that crown.
Trying to get some, man. You be trying to sneak him in. No, you know what? Y'all brought up some good points. Me and Jay were watching it, and I was saying, "Yo, Bud really feel like Shawn gonna get tired. He really,
oh yeah,
he really feel like Shawn gonna get tired." And I think that's part of what Jay was talking about. And I'm like, I'm not sure he will, at the extent that he need him to do what he did, which is run off the combinations. Whether he's moving with the combinations or not, they come out in quick succession. There are a lot of them, and he has long arms, so he does not have to get close to you to use the punches. Late in the fight, what slows down the most? Your leg movement and the explosiveness of your legs. Meaning, if someone starts throwing punches, in a small vicinity, you won't be able to get out of the way as easy. So that's an advantage for him. Let me run these combinations. We both about to sit still. You're going to have to fight him on the inside late in these fights better than he's fighting you on the inside. Yeah. I give him a B. I feel like this was Errol Spence, Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia, Manny Pacquiao, and Keith Thurman all have a quality about them that can, bring them over the top late in fights with their opponents. That's why they're top tier. People keep asking, well, why are these people, like people keep comparing UC's football team's football conference to everybody else's conference. They'll use stats like, oh, their winning percentage of their opponents is the same as Alabama's. It's completely different. It's completely different. Why is it different? Because the people they're playing on a consistent basis, they're destroying them. They're getting higher level athletes. They're faster, they're stronger, they're taller, they have better trainers, they have better amateur backgrounds. There's a whole bunch of things that go into why you rank them that high. The reason Porter, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao were ranked that high because they dominated everybody they fought. Nobody knew who. I don't even know the names of the people Crawford fought before this, but this was his first time meeting someone on his level round by round. And he finished him. So he finished him with his skill set that he has. He did not adjust to me. And that's why I give him a B. He didn't make any adjustment. He went with plan A. I'm going to fight Shawn. I'm going to try to wrestle him. Oh, Shawn's going to eventually get tired. Round 5. Shawn's going to eventually get tired. Round 6. He really didn't get tired at the level he thought. And that's why a lot of people said, that's a premature stoppage. Everybody knocked down Shawn late in fights. Everybody hurt Shawn late in fights. And what happened? Shawn get back up. Keith Thurman hurt him in this fight. AB hurt him in his fight, knocked him down. Errol Spence hurt him in his fight. What?
Not twice.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody hurts him. They're saying you're stopping a warrior. Don't stop no Arturo Gatti. Don't stop no Miguel Cotto unless they're bleeding and you know what I'm saying? He's not in risk of brain damage or anything like that. He's in a war with a guy and they trading punches and Bud got the best of him in this round.
I'm gonna tell you though, because we talked about this. So we already talked about the answer. It wasn't him that stopped the fight. No. So I'm saying his dad had lost that fight. His dad was out of that fight. So his dad not necessarily didn't know what he was gonna say in the corner. You know what I'm saying? Like I think his dad lost the fight before we say Shawn did. Because
right. His dad.
I think, like you said, this dude's a warrior. Why stop? He's gonna get up. Even in his frustration, you know, seeing him punch the canvas like that, I still wasn't really concerned with him being out of.
I was concerned. I was like, he might get stopped for real, but I'm not stopping the man that been in here all these wars and got to this pinnacle through hard work and coming up in the mountains with me and being the most conditioned athlete in the sport to come up here and me stop a fight. I'm saying people thought it was a premature stoppage because they knew who Shawn was. They looked at his track record and said, okay, what's name getting in his ass right now?
I do think he was gonna go to sleep though. If he would,
he probably would.
I think he was gonna be asleep.
But he's a better pro than Kell Brook. Tackle him. Do whatever you got to do. Get out the round. Lose the fight. Don't get stopped or whatever. But I will say, yes, he did at the end. That finish was more impressive than what Errol tried to do late in that fight, which brings us to our closing remarks about what do you think happens in the Bud Spence fight, like kind of quickly, and will the fight happen? I'm gonna start with Jay.
So before we go to that, I wanted to say something real quick about your rating. And the biggest reason why I didn't give Bud a B, because I was on the borderline with it. The biggest reason why I didn't is because it wasn't necessarily that his game plan or his skill set limited him. It was his stubbornness and the type of man that he is. He said at the beginning, I'm gonna go to Shawn, and he thinks that he's going to do whatever he wants to me. I'm going to show him that this is what I'm going to do. You're not going to do nothing about it, and I'm going to stop you. Almost verbatim, that's what he said. So it's not necessarily any limitations on his skill or limitations on his ability to adjust, because we've seen him do that. And I think that's the biggest difference that I saw in his timing. And now that we've, had this particular conversation, it's sort of giving me that visual compare and contrast as far as what his usual tactics are and what he just literally said right before the fight. And that's exactly what he did. We just didn't believe it.
This being recorded, so we're going to be able to hold this forever, because it's not often that Jay and I are agreeing to the extent that we agree on. But I strongly agree with that, because I think the outlier in the situation was the fact that he was fighting Porter. And I think Shawn Porter he's that gnat at the barbecue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't get off what you really want to get off. But if you say you're going to get your rocks off, you are, because that's who you are as a boxer. And I definitely agree. Like, but he still did what he said he was going to do. It may not have looked like, what we used to seeing from him, but he did what he said he was going to do. And with it being Shawn Porter, I feel like at the end of the fight, towards the middle to the end, he did a damn good job. But go ahead. You was talking about the Spence Bud joint. I just wanted to mention
those are good points. I disagree with y'all, and that'll come up when we talk about the if they have this fight with Spence and Crawford. We'll talk more about that. But finish that, Jay, about Spence and Crawford.
So the Spence Crawford fight is going to be super interesting, because it's going to be the same pace of pressure, I believe, from Spence, but it's going to be more consistent. With the confusion of angles, getting actually touched, because Spence is definitely going to touch you more than you got touched by Shawn. So that's a concern for me. But at the same time, I seriously doubt that Crawford is going to go into a Spence fight with that particular game plan or that particular stubbornness. So this should be very interesting. I think that he added a little bit more muscle for this particular fight, and that might be why his legs weren't the way that they were supposed to be. I know he was doing a lot of powerlifting, especially deadlifting and Olympic style stuff. So that might have been another reason. And I think he's gonna be more so on his boxing bike to give Spence different types of angles and take advantage of how flat-footed Spence can be in those spurts, I should say.
I like that. Do you think the fight gonna happen, and how can they make it?
Honestly, I think it's gonna happen in the next 6 months because you're not gonna get no bigger buzz than what is right now. There's no other fight to make in the division. Keith Thurman does not deserve any consideration for any of this.
Right.
For neither one of these champions. The only person that he could possibly fight would be Ugas. I don't even know the politics behind that, but that's who he probably need to fight, or whoever else is top 4 or 5, and regain some of, whatever he lost in the Pacquiao fight. Because if we hadn't seen him in so long, that's the only thing we got to go off of, and he's still talking trash like he beat Pacquiao. So I want to see you do something before I hear you talk anything else. Because at first it was a little entertaining, but now I'm kind of annoyed.
I hear you. Vontae, what you got? How does that fight go with Crawford and Spence? And can the fight be made? Will it be made?
First off, Spence has a lot more power than Shawn Porter does. So if that is, in fact, his next fight, and Spence can connect like Shawn Porter did last night, I think we definitely see a totally different Bud, because he's going to have to respond to some body shots, because we know Spence going to want to break him down just the same as he would, the same as Crawford would Spence. So I think it's going to be a chess match between the two. I honestly feel like it's going to be who comes in a better shape, because it's going to go to the wire. I will respectfully say that I could see both of them touching canvas against each other.
Yes, sir.
And that's just based on, pop shots. It could be a quick little flash knockdown just because you get caught correctly. So I think it's possible. Then I go to the next question. Do I think that the fight is possible and will be made? I don't. I don't think it's real. It's fake. I'm not waiting around. I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not falling into this reality TV drama of boxing. I waited my whole life to watch Floyd and Pacquiao fight, and I had to watch
Your whole life.
two 60-year-old men box each other. It was an overrated sparring match. I don't want to see that again. So if Crawford Spence or Spence Crawford, however they want to title it, is getting to the realms of that May Pac or Pac May, however you want to title it, I don't want to see it, man. If y'all ain't gonna fight in the next year or so, like, let's quit talking about it. Let's just move on. Let's get into these young bloods, Shakur and all these and Tank, and we can skip them and just go to these young boys who want to fight.
And it will start all over again.
I agree.
Let me jump. Without contrary, you just couldn't let it happen.
That's part of the reason I bring him on here. Right, I like these points because I'm thinking about it. I'll say this. No, I'll ask you to this, Jay. Does Spence have a better chin than Porter? I know Porter got a good chin. Do Spence got a better chin than Porter? Or is it even on par with Porter's?
Has his chin even been tested to know that?
He been hit by Danny Garcia a few times. It wasn't a lot, but he walked through it. He been hit by Kell Brook. And no one else has really hit him, no. No one else has really hit him. But here's the thing. Early in his career, I didn't believe in Spence because he did get hit a lot because he walked people down. And I was like, man, this dude can't compete. Then I saw, not like a defense of elusivity. It was a defense of, I'm real sharp with blocking. I'm real sharp in my foot placement. I'm real sharp with the tactical or the technical part of boxing. Like, you're not about to catch me because you faking me out or because you're out feigning me or something like that. Only time you're going to catch me is when I committed to you and I pretty much know you can't hurt me. Which leads me into what I was seeing in the Crawford fight. Crawford early on looked as if, okay, Porter can hurt me a little bit early in this fight. I'm going to wait till he slow down. Spence looked at Porter's like, you not hurting me. I don't care what you do. I would literally cover up and stand right here. And the only reason I might hold you is because you're going to go around me in a circle. and I'm gonna have to find you again. So I'm going to hold you so you can stand right here and so you can fight me. Why are you moving? Why are you moving? I want to fight you, Shawn. And we gonna sit. I'm tired, Shawn. Yeah, you hit me, Shawn. Yeah, you catch me. Yeah, my cheek all puffed up. I got a cut over my because you headbutted me. I want you to sit right here and fight me. And yes, you see that a lot. You seen that with Cotto and Gotti and Margarito and Shane Mosley and a lot of fighters. But the thing about Spence is he's taller than most of these dudes, and he's walking them down jabbing behind a decent high guard and with decent foot movement. He outmaneuvered, he out angled, he outboxed, he out jabbed, he out timed. Mikey Garcia, he beat him at every part of that game other than stopping him. And going back to Crawford, Crawford is dynamic. He is explosive. He can run combinations. His I don't know what the springs in his legs on a different level than Spence. He got better foot speed than Spence. I won't say he has better movement, but it's more explosive and it's quicker. So you got a guy who's technical, can reach you because he's taller than you and got decent reach, and he can box his way in, unlike Porter. And then you got a guy that can outmaneuver you and run combinations on you. I think Spence has the better chin, but Crawford can hit Spence more. I think Spence gonna hit Crawford way more than Porter did. So you got one guy who can pot shot and hurt Crawford. You got Spence that can literally hit Crawford with like an uppercut, a left hand, a right hook, or something, and daze him. And then you got Crawford on the other hand that if Spence gets his feet stuck in the mud, he gets flat-footed, Crawford can start moving around him and running combinations. Basically, you got a war. It reminds me of Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. Tommy Hearns was the one that was hurting cats with one punch. Sugar Ray Leonard can move and he could throw combinations. That fight kept going. Sugar Ray had to move, like Jay said. He had to get on that bike finally because he went to war with little Roberto Duran. He went to war with everybody he fought, and all of a sudden he fighting this tall dude that's lanky and this dude running for like 4 rounds. I see it like that. I see Crawford having to move and not allow himself to get touched at all, because I think Spence hits way better, way harder, probably on the level of Garcia, not Thurman. He's on the level of Garcia at this weight class, and I think Spence is going to have to avoid getting fatigued to the point that he has to sit still, because I think it's not going to be one shot that put him down. It's going to be combinations and overwhelming. So before all the accidents with Spence, I had Spence stopping Crawford. The Crawford that we saw. Crawford got better, he got stronger, and he's got more used to the weight class. So if I'm looking at Crawford before this Porter fight, fighting at Danny Garcia, the Spencer fought with Danny Garcia, I had Crawford. I've seen Crawford come down to earth, fighting Porter. He's human. He has to take breaks. He doesn't have the gas tank that Pacquiao does. And I've seen Spence come down. They're not Pac-May. They're not 60-year-olds fighting. They're close to the prime. And since they're close to their prime, I don't see as much movement. I see eventually breaking out in the war. And it's 50-50 at this point. Do I think it's going to get made? Here's the interesting part. The WBA is blocking Spence from getting a third belt and trying to get this lion's share in this A side. They want Ugas, who has the WBA belt that he took from Pacquiao, and they want him to go in this tournament, and nobody hears about it. I heard that Crawford this week had his team go to the WBC, which is the belt that Spence has at welterweight, and lobby that they make Crawford the mandatory. WBC agreed, and the WBC is talking to the WBO or the IBF. They're talking to the IBF, which is the other belt that Spence has, and they're talking to the WBO to let all this shit happen. They want the fight. They ordered it. One thing I'll say, I didn't like the fact that Spence left. Spence was at that fight. I'm a Spence fan. You can't leave. You can't talk that much shit. You can't show up to the fight and leave early. Somebody asked him a question, and this is going to linger. Maybe Blue Blood or somebody asked him. They said, Crawford asked the WBC to enforce him as the mandatory. What do you think about that? He said, I don't give a fuck. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like the fight Well, I do like the fact that Crawford dug back at Spence and said, hey, I thought he wasn't coming to my fights. Because Spence said that shit too. Again, I'm a Spence fan, but if you're going to talk that shit, you're going to have to eat it. You're going to have to eat crow when you get a car crash and your eye get messed up and you say, blame Bob when you get the fight and you shitting on Crawford. When Crawford get up and he stop a dude that you didn't stop, you got to eat that shit. And if you sitting on the side of the ring, when he knock a dude out, sit there, take it, let him talk shit to you, talk some shit back. But in the end, Jay and Josh pointed out the fact that Spence put up the flyer that PBC put up, ESPN put up the flyer that PBC put up that had Crawford and Spence in the ring saying that's the next fight. Everybody putting the flyer up, so I think everybody with it, and I think it's going to have to be the next fight.
I'm sleep. But the only reason I feel like he left that fight is because he needed Porter to win so he could stay and talk shit. And because Porter didn't win, I feel like that's why he made his exit, you know.
He said Crawford was gonna knock him out.
Nah, he said that, but I think him staying and talking shit was, you know, all on Crawford losing that fight. That's just me.
I feel you.
Based on, you know, the Cinderella fairy tale that we got going on. I feel like if Porter would have won that fight, then we definitely would have saw Bud step in and talk some shit. But I do, and you made me think about this because I'm gonna have to go back and watch that fight again now. But that was 2 years ago, and I feel like Spence Porter was a much slower paced fight than Bud Porter was last night. So I would have to go back and watch that.
You going to watch that?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it just to see. And I know Shawn Porter was getting with him. This was another fight. You know, he was roughhousing him. But I got to go back and watch that just to see because I feel like that was Shawn Porter's best fight. And then, you know, when we watched last night, so I got to go back so I can really compare them too.
Watch that tonight and hit me back. I want to talk to you about that fight.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'll do that. But that's it for me. That's what you get.
Jay.
Until next time.
Well, I think I already kind of said, you know, that I think that the fight may happen. Well, actually, I was about to say it, and I think we got sidetracked a little bit, but I think that the fight will definitely happen within the next 6 months. Everything seems like it's leading in that particular direction. I don't really see where the next big fight could come from outside of Canelo fighting somebody huge or something like that. But yeah, I see that happening. I see everybody kind of rallying in that way. Piggybacking off of that, I'm not sure if y'all saw this, but how Crawford emphatically said that he was about to leave Bob Arum in Top Rank in his face. That was hilarious.
I'm gonna watch some more of that tonight too. Finally,
I felt that was very fitting. He couldn't have had any better timing. He couldn't have had any better presentation. And the way that he did it, especially how disrespectful Bob Arum has openly been to him over the years.
And we're going to get into that when we finally get this fight announced, because I feel like Spence has some legitimacy in talking shit to Bud. Don't talk to me crazy and let this. We going to hold that. I'm going to hold that. So, great talk today. We gonna talk shit some more when we get a chance. We're going to make more videos. We'll invite Vontae if we feel like he know what he's talking about. Maybe some other people if they know what they're talking about. Maybe he can throw some other people my way. Maybe we can talk football. Maybe we can talk basketball. Maybe we can talk all these different things. Maybe some politics, because if y'all ain't noticed, we all black and there's a lot of shit happening around us. We're fathers, we're uncles, and there's a lot of shit happening around us, and we can talk about that too. But good one for the day. My daughter yelling. So it's time to get out of here. Men in Science, we out. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. See y'all later.